Welcome to BS session 157. It's winter. I walk through the woods down the trap line. It's peaceful, serene. I crouch down. I hear a snap. Probably just a twig. I think nothing of it, as I'm enjoying the spectacle of it all. I get up and keep walking. I feel a chain tighten and a sharp tug. And now I remember exactly where I put that trap last week.
Welcome to the Ballistically Speaking Podcast, your weekly dose of BS.
It was a Ruger Mini 14 semi-automatic rifle.
What did you just say to me? What did you just say to me? What did you just say to me? What did you just say to me?
All right.
Try to channel my inner red-green poem in there. It goes exactly how people think it goes.
What was that black and white segment in red green? Was it
Adventures
Bill?
with Bill.
Yeah, Adventures with Bill. We're having some adventures with a different Bill today. But speaking of bills, let's pay some bills.
I guess we could.
Tonight, we are brought to you by Call Sign 66, Canada's best rifle training. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course now at callsign66.ca and follow them on Instagram at callsign66 and on Facebook at C/S66.
And we're also brought to you by Ribstone Gunsmithing. Craftsmanship done right. Contact Oscar at ribstonegunsmithing.ca and breathe life back into any firearm. Check out Oscar's book titled Rust Bluing in the 21st Century. You can find that on Amazon.
Do you guys want me to participate or just shut the hell up?
I mean, you're here. You may as well contribute.
Might as well participate, yeah.
All right. Tonight we're brought to you also by March Scopes Canada. The Dion Optical design line of rifle scopes has a scope for all your hunting and shooting needs. Find Doug and Niza at marchscopes.ca. They still have the FX 5 to 40 March FX 5 to 42 by 56 High Master on sale here. It is slightly lovingly used by yours truly. They have it on right now for $4,600. That's substantial savings. It's like $1,300 savings on that. Anyway, get a hold of Doug or Niza to have a look at it if you're interested.
And we're also brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Boasting a coffee cupping score of 88.5 on a 100 scale, Bolt Action Coffee is unmistakably a premium coffee. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com.
And we're also brought to you by Odell Engineering. Pick up a Canuck shotgun, Brigade rifle, and Apex ammunition from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up on Instagram, Facebook, and on their website at odellengineeringlimited.com. Just released is the Tack Up Elite in both red and blue flavors, featuring a 3.5-inch chamber, aluminum M-lock rail forend, match saver, and 5 chokes and a 5-round capacity. This would make a great addition to any safe.
Such a silky voice on you.
I know.
All right. Also, yeah. Sterling Arms International, the home of the R18 Mark III and the R9 Mark I. They may be down, but they are not out. Stay tuned for something new. The RL9.
Yeah, we're looking forward to get some more details about that one.
Absolutely. I like it.
Also, we have Apex Optics, championship winning glass, built for shooters by shooters. Coming to a match near you is the newly released Apex Synergy LRF binos, complete with 12 by 50 ELD glass, applied ballistics on board, and a whole podcast worth of features. Check them out at apexoptics.co/synergy to get your name on the list for priority and pre-sale, which is live now. Also, we have the long-awaited Vapor is being shipped now, so if you're in the market for a 1 to 4 prism optic, now is the time to buy. All right. And Want to get this out of the way right away. For our listeners, we've been drawing for a 338 full custom 338 Lapua, built by EM Precision Rifles. Features a Curtis custom action, fully laminate stock by Rifles Refined, and it's a beauty. And we're going to do some drawing for it. So I'm going to present. If you give me a moment here.
Pause for dramatic effect.
Pause for dramatic effect.
I just want to take the
Ready to
time
go.
to thank the folks that participated and sent in for entries into this. It's been it's been way too long. It's been almost a year, I think. I'm a really crappy marketer, really poor salesman. Thanks everybody
No,
for
you're
hanging in with me.
Don't sell yourself
I'm
short.
what?
Don't sell yourself short.
Well, so far my statistics aren't looking all that great for salesman of the year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see with
Alberta
your commission.
Rob is, yeah. Alberta Rob has commented, Rooster unquit. No, you know what? To unquit, there's a whole bunch of paperwork involved, some waivers and that. It's the guys looked at me and went, no, sorry. And you get a 10-minute slot here. That's it.
Okay. I am not sure what happened. I was able to make this work before.
Oh no.
Just made it. What's the backup plan? There is a plan.
There's a black backup plan. Click the icon in your address bar to allow access.
I don't think that's helpful for everybody at home, Derek.
I know it's not.
But it helps you think out loud.
It does help me
Whatever
think
works.
out loud.
Hey, there's a teleprompter feature on StreamYard now. What's that all about?
Well, you put in your notes and then you just read it. Like it scrolls for you.
That seems like cheating. They
can't just do it
Bidened
live.
it.
Nah. Just as you leave, all the fun features show up.
Ah, crap.
Derek, how are we doing?
I'm
sure he'll
trying
tell
here.
us when he gets success.
Okay.
Here, yeah.
1 second here.
Your badgering him probably won't make it go faster. How about now, Derek?
Actually, yes. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
You bet.
So we have a random number wheel here. We have 278 entries. So we have 1 to 278. And we're going to spin the wheel.
Are we doing this once or 3 times or 8 times or what? We didn't really talk about that.
We're doing it once.
There you go.
88.
Number 88. Who is that on the list? 88. 88 is Marcia Slingsby. I know who that is. Marcia.
Mhm.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. I will give her
We'll
a
be
call
getting
right
hold of
after
you.
this.
And going, and yeah, Rooster will handle that. So
You bet.
stay tuned to your phone number, Marcia. Is it Marcia?
Marcia,
Marcia.
Marcia, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Marcy, one of the two. Anyways, let's talk about somebody actually here with us right now. Bill,
We've been ignoring our guest.
tell us who you are and what do you do?
I'm Bill Abercrombie. I'm president of the Alberta Trappers Association and president and consulting lead for Bushman Inc., which is my corporate entity, and my sons and I operate that, and that's we do problem wildlife management across Western Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And some trapline adventure tours, and we have a fur product division as well. But
Okay,
what
interesting.
takes most of my time is that's how I make a living trapping, and then the rest is advocacy and that sort of thing. That's pretty much my role with the Alberta Trappers Association. Deal with stakeholders, promote the life, promote the culture, the tradition, deal with all naysayers.
Yeah, there's too many of those.
And just make sure that I put trapping in perspective for people and in its proper light, and add a dose of reality to what people's impressions are of trapping, and talk truth. That's my
Yeah.
job.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
how did you get started in trapping?
I started when I was a kid. My great uncle was a trapper and horse wrangler up in the northern BC and Peace Liard River country. Actually, I have a small town named after him up there. Him and his brother Charlie Hudson, from my grandmother on my dad's side, and they ran a trap line in the Hudson Hope area, and worked as cowboys in southern Alberta back in the day. And that's back in the 20s and 30s. That's quite a while ago. But he was still around when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
his stories, and my my dad's passion for all things outdoors and hunting. And I had another cowboy, a friend of my grandfather, that spent a lot of time out on the family property I live at now. And he kind of got it into me, when I was about 8, 9 years old. And it just really took. I never really wanted to do anything else, and I've been very blessed. I've been able to follow my passion and find a way to make a living doing that, and basically living the dream.
Yeah.
So,
do you remember the first animals you were trapping?
Yeah, I think I started out like most young trappers with squirrels and ermine, muskrats, like that. Raised in the Beaver Hills, in southeast of Edmonton, in the Cooking Lake Moraine.
Oh, yeah,
and at
yeah.
that time, there was just a real trapping mecca in that country. Not that many people, still mostly farmers and ranchers. And so, that's how I cut my teeth at it. And then since then, I've been all over the place. But that's where I learned and my craft and how to do it. And
Yeah. So you said with one of your businesses now, you're doing a trap line adventure tour. So you bringing people like for trap checks, and is that what you're doing when you describe that?
Well, I mean, I do everything. I'm also a guide and outfitter. So, back in the day when I trapped up in the wood buffalo area, I'd guide moose hunters and kind of a combination moose hunting, wolf hunting, and trap line adventure. And did a lot of that. I did that for about 15 years. And loved doing that. And I had people from all over the world. Guided them up in the Birch Mountains. And Now I still guide people from around the world. I have a trap line at Chip Lake, west of Edmonton,
Mhm.
about 100 square miles there. But I mean, most of my time is spent, with school kids and people that are just interested and curious. And I don't really make any money doing that. But
Mhm.
what I love is the opportunity to teach and engage people, take them out on the land, show them, all the the different facets of that, and you know, nature from a different perspective. The reality of life and death,
Mhm.
and what that means, and what our connection as human beings to that process could and should be, really, and and as a trapper, what our perspective is. And for us, it's just being connected to that, right? And I think probably trappers are connected to that life and death cycle and to the land like nobody else. And
Mhm.
so we're in a unique position to understand, and it basically, that kind of life speaks to your heart and your soul, right? And uh, to be able to show that people that, and help them realize their own connection to the land. That's what gives me a big thrill these days. But I mean,
Mhm.
most of the people that I guide are not there. They're not happy if they don't kill something. For them, just being there
Mhm.
is, for them, it's a life changing event.
Yeah.
And that's what really gives me the most satisfaction. I love guiding people, and uh, you know, helping them collect, the trophy of their dreams and all of that. But that life changing experience, you see it on their face when they finally get it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, to me, that's the big reward.
Yeah. No, that's definitely very cool. What are some common things that people take away, like after going on, a trap line check with you? What do you think really kind of resonates with them after they leave?
um, that life in the bush is hard.
Yep.
It takes a lot of skill.
Mm.
Um, but it, at the end of the day, I think they realize that what's important is that, you arrive back at camp in one piece, you have a shelter, you have a warm
Mm.
fire, and something to eat. And out in those circumstances, really, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And then once you've taken care of those basic elements of survival, then you can sit back and listen to the wolves and look at the stars, and have your own
Yep.
philosophical moment. But just the act of being in that situation, where if you're not careful how you move through the bush, and
Hmm.
you do it to its rhythm, right? Not yours, its rhythm. And you have to orient the two, right? And if
Hmm.
you don't, if you're not successful hunting, if you're not, if you can't build an adequate shelter to keep yourself warm, and address all of those things, if you don't have the right gear, like, you're in trouble, you
Hmm.
know. So you have to satisfy
Yeah.
those things, and then after that, you know, probably the next thing is that they realize, and people talk about nature, and the circle of life and all of that, and they realize that the natural process, the irrefutable hard rule, is that living things are born and then they die, you
Hmm.
know, and so, um, if if you're a trapper, and um, you know, you're there to harvest fur, and that involves taking the lives of animals and utilizing them. But if the thought process behind that is that, because of your close connection, you're there not just as a taker on the land, but as a sustainer. So our process is sustainable use and treating the land and the animals on it with dignity and respect, and so when we're going to kill an animal, in the eyes of a trapper, we want that death to be a gift because we killed that animal respectfully and humanely with its dignity intact, right? And, if you can do that, then that's a gift, and that's what sets you apart as a human being, that kind of compassion.
Yeah.
Because that's not how wild animals generally die in the wilderness. It's just not for them a happy experience. They live their lives. There's always stress. There's always elements of suffering. It's not all that, but when their time comes, it's usually as a result of death from exposure or starvation or disease or a predator getting a hold of them or a competitor, one or the other, and killing them in a way that's the least risk to the predator and quite often causes a lot of suffering for the thing that they're killing, right? And that's nature, and then, wolves and cougars and all that, there's no evil in them, but there's no mercy either. And so
that's a hard fact right there. Yeah.
And that's what it is. And, so as a trapper, you have a front row seat to all of that. And you try to explain to people what the reality is of that existence, right? And, if they're there with you, it's not tough to explain because they get to see it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they get to see how trappers harvest animals, how they kill the animal, the amount of effort that goes into making sure that there can be a train wreck, once in a while, but that our focus and our effort is to kill sustainably, be cognizant of how many animals that we're taking, what the cycles are doing there, what the habitat can support, the carrying capacity, all of that. Manage the fur bearer population the best way we can, the most responsibly and sustainably, and also like being out there on the land it's a gift and a blessing, right? So trappers try to be stewards as well because they see an awful lot more than just what their target fur bearers are doing. They see everything that's going on there, and they do their best to also advocate for, conservation, sustainable use of resources, responsible use of resources, and try to bring some perspective that, we have, as human beings, we have to harvest resources at large scale, but, we can be more thoughtful about the way we do that than we are, what I mean? And there are other considerations, and there are long-term considerations for us as human beings. And, a little bit of that thoughtfulness and, thinking about more than, just a paycheck or, satisfying shareholders or whatever it is, and in Alberta, probably, more than any other province, like we depend on those resources. And so I think, we can also consider the other resources that for us as Albertans and Canadians really are just almost as important as that which produces jobs and economic well-being and all of those things. But the thing that keeps us centered as Albertans and Canadians, even if we're not trappers or hunters or fishermen or whatever, but knowing it's there and it's intact, I think it counts for a lot, right?
For sure.
Because,
For sure.
So
I want to go backwards. You're talking about making it home from the end of the day on the trapline check. Have you ever not made it home? Has there been nights that you've had to stay in the bush? And what are those?
He's made it
especially,
home, Derek,
especially
because he's
wilderness.
talking to us
I
right
trapped
now.
in the wilderness for a long, long time. Not so much now, but still, and I've been stuck for the big walk a few times, and back in the day, I used sled dogs. I had a kind of a Malamute cross, wolf cross dog team. That's what I used up in Wood Buffalo, and then when my wife and I homesteaded in Alaska, and you don't cover as much ground, but you're more likely to get home at the end of the day. And if you got a camp, I'd rather camp with the Malamutes than on my broken down snow machine. You know what I mean? So
one's a little bit more cuddly.
Well, yeah,
and
and they're still, and it's also a defense system. Like those dogs are bonded with you, and so it's good to have that, when you're out alone in the wilderness, and then I've had to walk back and a few times, and it's challenging, to say the least, especially if you've got 20-30 mile walk or more, and it's minus 30 or 35 or more at night.
What's kind of the average trap line length that a trapper will run?
Oh, I say the average might be about, let's say loops around, say 10 to 15 kilometers or 20 kilometers. Depends how big. Trap lines range from 36 square mile to 3,600 square miles. So, the farther north you get, the more isolated the bigger the trap lines are. So, my partner and I trapped at one time over 30 townships.
Oh wow!
With right now my current trap line, I'm trapping 3 townships. And that's close to 100 square miles, and that's lots for me right now. But back in the day, our trails were 80-90 kilometers long sometimes. So you always carried gear with you. If you broke down, you had to be able to survive, make a shelter. And then if you got to walk, because you can't fix whatever your issue was, basically you're walking half a day, taking half a day to build what you need to survive the night. Get up, walk half a day, then start building your shelter again. Right?
Have you had to do
that?
That's
literally what it takes. And if you don't have that, you're going to die. Simple as that. Yeah. So
have you had that where you've had to literally camp, walk, and then camp? Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's okay. It just is what it is. You have to be prepared for that. If you're not prepared for that, you shouldn't be there. Simple as that.
No,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Not every trap line is like that, but when you're trapping in the wilderness, 100 plus miles away from the nearest town, or there's there are certain rules. Take your time, don't make any mistakes. The longer you do it, the more you learn how not to make mistakes that are going to either cost you a broken down machine or a broken body. Broken machine is a pain in the rear. A broken body can kill you. So
definitely. What's kind of a piece of survival equipment or gear that you always had on you for those occasions?
Well, I usually had a good sleeping bag, but not always. Sometimes, you know, you think, oh yeah, you know, I'm just, you know, going, you know, on the short trail or whatever, and that's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you don't take the time and you think those lessons you learn. I don't make that mistake anymore.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But when you're young and full of beans and you think you're indestructible, you learn the hard way, and that's how most trappers learn all those lessons, is the hard way. So yeah, that a tarp, guaranteed fire starting material, an axe, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
headlamp is good because
Mm-hmm.
when it's dark, it gets dark early. The further north you go, and it's dark.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, uh, a shovel's good,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you got to build a, you know, a Quincy or a snow cave. Yeah, that's something you can actually build fast,
Mm-hmm.
and the snow sets up quickly, and that'll save your life, knowing how to do that. And a
Okay.
shovel is a big asset when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what are some most common traps that trappers use, and can you describe them? Like I know there's conifers, there's leg holds,
Yeah, well,
there's snares.
there's two variety. There's a killing trap and a restraining trap. Um, Most northern trappers use restraining traps because they're trapping a big area, and so um, you know, the check a killing trap every 3-4 days is fine
Mm-hmm.
because you've killed the animal, whether it's a, you know, a conibear or a killing snare. You know, the animal's dead. The key is getting there before something else comes along and eats it
Right.
on you. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
so you know that's the thing is you know, not leaving them too long because you know a meal's a meal, and a lot of fur bears are cannibalistic. Wouldn't them even be, you know, like a bigger predator or something? You know, especially with you know, lynx or you know, fishers, marten, they'll eat
Mm-hmm.
their own, no problem. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, you want to check your traps regularly. You don't have to be out there every day. Restraining traps, um, those are used more by resident trappers. So a resident trapper, someone who traps on private land,
Mm-hmm.
and you know their trap line would be like farms and ranches pieced together, you
Yeah.
know, that sort of thing. Might even be their own, you know, their own land on their, you know, 5 acre acreage. You never, you know, good habitat is good habitat, and it'll support fur bears. Um, and resident trappers are more likely to use foot traps, and they on private land they got to be checked on a daily basis, and um, on a northern trap line, if you're using foot traps for wolves, you know, every 48 hours they have to be checked. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and most trappers use killing traps,
Yeah.
and they work well. Yeah.
We have one of our commentators, Alberta Rob. What's the nastiest critter you've ever had to release from a trap, or I'll say caught in a trap?
Well, catch and release are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, um, yeah, uh, cougar's a tricky one to release out of a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've done it a few times. I
Yeah.
don't care to repeat it really. Um, and sometimes you can't. You know, there's just no way it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the state of mind, the circumstances, and all of that. Yeah, Wolverine that got himself in a foot trap. Like we use killing traps for them. But
Mm-hmm.
if you know, if you're setting for wolves and all that, you know, you can on the odd time get a Wolverine in there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's something else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw one up north, and no other animal I've seen moves like it. It's like a spider.
Yeah.
They're weird.
Well, and and once you know they're on, quite often wolf traps are on drags, right? So you get a wolverine
Mm.
there, and it looks like someone drove a cat through the bush, because they'll just chew everything in their way and keep on going. And
Yeah.
it's hard to keep them tangled up. What they'll also do is circle around on their back trail once they know they're being followed and wait. And
Oh,
that'll
That'll raise the hair on the back of your neck.
that's a
Yeah.
different sort of experience, and it has to be experienced to understood what that is.
wow.
Same thing with like a wounded grizzly bear or something. You know what I mean? Once they know, they're going to circle back around on their own trail and wait for you. So,
Wow.
it's not a great feeling. But if you're if you expecting that, then you're looking for it, and you're quite often you can get around that. But a few close calls like that. Yeah.
Definitely a few hair-raising experiences then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been
So
out
what-
there and just kind of stopped and looked at the sun or lack of and gone, what the hell am I doing?
Well, the reality is, if you can't trap in the dark, you can't really trap, right? Because it's dark a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you believe me, all your senses are highly tuned.
Yeah.
So quite often I'm checking traps in my muckluck, so it's quiet, mostly so I can hear. And hearing is the sense that you're going to get first. Might be smell. If there's something there close, you might smell it first if you're downwind. But hearing is key. And if you have to headlamps or flashlights and all that, especially when you're trailing something by flashlight, and it's a different sort of feeling. So you got to be dialed in.
I think it's
I
one
know
thing we
there's some
take for-
animals I really don't like trailing in the dark. I just don't. And bears would be one. Cougars would be another one. I'm just not. Wolf, not some. Wolves are not. It's just they surprise you, right? So it's amazing how a big wolf can hide itself, but they tend to get hung up quickly if you're using a foot trap. Mostly most wolves are taken in snares, and they die fast, and it's all good, but nothing's 100%, right?
No.
Also,
Quite often you'll go there and you're checking snares, but if you're using a bait station to attract them into your snare cluster, and sometimes you'll figure out there's actually something big at your bait station, and it's not in a snare dead, it's alive, and that's I've had a few close calls. Cougars are the worst. Yeah, they're the worst, because they get really annoyed because they regard that as a kill, right? Your bait station.
Yeah.
So,
even though you're the one that put it there.
well, they don't much care about that.
Yes.
It's theirs now. And I mean,
exactly.
Predators do that all the time, but they can take from another predator, they're taking it. Bears is bad. Grizzly bears is really bad. And with the weather changes and all that, they just seem to be in and out all winter long, especially the old grumpy ones. And that's not fun. Yeah, I've had cougars come after me a few times. I've shot a few off of me, and that's why, you got to be ready and expect the unexpected, and then you're okay, hopefully. Trappers have a few scars on them from stuff that went sideways.
A few close calls.
Huh?
A few close calls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
I mean,
There's a valid reason why trappers are allowed to carry a handgun with them when they're out in the bush.
100%.
mhm.
Even in my work doing problem wildlife work, because I'm trapping year round, and you're going to be very, very lucky to stop a charge with a handgun. That's not what handguns are for. That's when the rifle has failed and it's got a hold of you. And under those circumstances, a handgun will save your life. It really will. So, it's not any trapper's first choice for defense. It really isn't. But
Yeah.
as the last defense, it's invaluable. So yeah.
So in terms of rifle choice, what are most trappers carrying with them?
Kind of where they are and what they're doing. Like, I know trappers like all carry a flat shooting. I prefer, something in 6mm, 25 caliber. If I get a chance at a wolf, run across a pack of wolves on a kill or something, that's happened. Trappers, quite often you'll see a lynx on the trail or something, a couple of 100 yards down the trail if you got a straight stretch. Coyotes, that sort of thing. Carry a flat shooting gun. But I'm checking bait though. Like I have my handgun, but I'll carry something a little bigger. I love my 45-70.
It's all the government you need. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the wrath of God to put the bullet in the right place. So and nowadays you can run across, the bigger, tougher predators almost anytime, depending where you're at. And for my money, that's what nothing with a scope, iron sights, something big, hard cast, flat nose. That's what I like.
Yeah.
So, and then you can use it in tight if you have to. So not a long barreled affair, but a short barreled carbine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something for when things don't go so great. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Does 35 Wayland enter the conversation when you're talking about big power like that, or?
Well, I have a 35 Wayland and I carry it a lot out in the bush, and it's a very good 35 Wayland. I have a kind of a custom 98 Mauser in 35 Wayland. 22-inch barrel, nice trigger. That one, it does have a scope on it, but it's a low power scope. And I've shot a lot of moose and bears with that, and the odd elk with that gun. I love the performance of it. It's one of those round, just like a 270. They seem to kill really well. 35 Wayland kills really well. I shoot a 225 grain bullet is my preference.
Yeah.
If I'm trapping in grizzly country, I might carry something a little bigger. 45-70 is great, but I might find myself with my 338 on the snow machine, just cause.
You got options. Might as well use them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different guns for a lot of different purposes. Certainly in prop and wildlife, like we do a large variety of guns because we're operating right from the big city to remote wilderness areas to, big industrial camps. You got to be able to use everything effectively. On the trap line, it's preference. Most trappers will tell you it's the the weapon that you can shoot really accurately, really fast.
Right.
Take that.
Yeah.
Power is not near as important as that.
Yeah.
You know.
Shot placement kills.
Oh,
Quicker you can get on
100%.
target. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I was thinking about was the Mini 14. I know we haven't been able to have that or use that for quite some time, but semi-autos in general, I know a lot of the people way up north, Mini 14 was a great rifle for a lot of the Inuit and that. What's your take on that, Bill? Like, have you ever? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's great use case for, in spite of what the government tells everybody, for semi-automatic rifles.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
So in my line of work as a wildlife professional, so like we have permits. So I mean, we have a firearms license and we have an operational permit tied to that. I can use any gun I damn well please, and there's a reason for that. No, but it's
man. Yeah.
and in that line of work, and I'm restricted, to government contracts and that sort of thing, right? But that stuff has its place, and like we're dealing with dangerous animals, having them escape into a residential area or get away wounded. It's not an option. It just really isn't.
Yeah.
So we need the ability, and quite often if we're dealing with, a pack of animals, right? More than one,
100%.
we need to put down as many as we can, and we have to be able to ensure they stay down.
Yeah.
And that's, so, that's what we use. We have, and I never, but I mean, it's, we have a lot of equipment on tactical platforms for that purpose.
Yeah.
We use suppressors. We use, night vision, thermal sighting when needed. Even like wild boars or whatever. I mean, that stuff like that. You have to have that kind of capability. Is it always it's not always the best option, but it's quite often the best option, and sometimes it's the only option. So I don't know why. I don't. I could do a lot of talking on the current situation.
Oh, we have.
Can't we all?
Certainly for people that are out on the land, right? Like, there's, they should be able to use whatever they want to, right? Because they can make a very, very good case for it. You know what I mean? So it's not.
There's nobody out there to back them up in some of these places. You're hundreds of kilometers from the nearest.
Well, there is,
in some cases.
and that's what that never seems to get into the equation. Yeah, there's nobody's coming, right? There, it for us it'll be days or weeks before anyone comes looking, and anything bad that was going to happen, has long since happened, and so it's on us, right? And you need sometimes the only thing that's going to fix the situation is to have as much firepower as you possibly can,
Definitely. Yeah.
And just because some idiot went and decided to shoot up that really has nothing to do with it, right? Because that's not a precedent for what the use of that tool is, right? That's not what it was for. It's defensive, or it's, because that's what I need to defend my livestock. That's what I need to defend me, or even for hunting or whatever. I mean, sometimes that's the option you need, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, if you can behave with it,
you know,
you
I
can
think
have it. Exactly.
so for us, they're tools. You know, the novelty and the bravado went out of all that stuff a long time ago, and we just need what we need to get the job done. And you know, people are hiring us to produce results, right? And quite often, the desired result is that, you know, we have to be able to guarantee public safety against animals that are an absolute threat, you
Yeah.
know, or we need to guarantee our safety. And, you know, we're out doing this all the time, every day, you know, and, you know, if you ask, you know, like law enforcement or something, I mean, Fish and Wildlife, how often do you fire your weapon?
Not very often.
Yeah.
Well, we're firing us every bloody day.
Yeah.
It's
gotta-
every day.
Mhm.
So
The
It's an
one
odd
that
day
makes
if you
people
don't.
uncomfortable is
yeah,
when
so
you
and
how much the
either
cops train.
in defense of us, but mostly it's, you know, public safety, defense of property, of livestock, removing, you know, sick and diseased animals, all of that stuff. You know, that's part of our scope of work, providing security against, you know, large predators for people, you know, working out in the bush or even on a project site. You know, the issue is the problem is
I'll
had
stop you there, Bill.
generations of close contact of large predators in close contact with people and very little pushback. And so they're really not afraid anymore. And that's the thing that I think that even our regulators, they're a little slow on the uptake here about what the actual situation is. Right. And so, you know, you're a trapper out there in the bush with your family, like, you know, you can be a target very, very quickly. You know, it's not just you out there in Alberta.
Yeah.
In most of Canada, it's not the grizzled old hermit out there trapping. It's families that have been on the bush, out on that trap line and in the bush for generations, right?
Yeah.
Their children are there with them. Their wives, you know, they're the extended family. This is what they do, you know. So, you know, you have a right to protect them. So,
Boy, doesn't this illustrate the disconnect, the very, very wide disconnect in this country, hey?
well, you know, there's a pretty big disconnect between, you know, what we do and all of that, the reality of nature and wild country, but not even that, like just right in any, you know, wild animal habitat right in and around towns and cities, and the disconnect to the reality of that situation with most of society, right?
Amen.
Is, you know, you know, they're guided by influencers on social media who just do it just to get people all fired up for this reason or that reason, and that makes them easier to manipulate them, right? And you know, the propaganda being spewed out there is just, that's nonstop, and it's almost, you know, there's more. I see very little truth and fact, you know, from any of that, you know. And what I don't understand is, you know, our government and all that should really be more focused on the truth and the fact part when it comes to governance, you know.
You're getting,
but they're
Bill,
not.
Bill.
Like they're actually politicizing and taking advantage of that ignorance for the wrong reason, right? Like, you know,
that fires out of control now, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well,
that's,
and
out of
you know,
control.
you can't govern according to political agenda. You know, that's not, you know, politics.
Not sustainably anyway.
If you got to do that to get elected, you know, that's the reality, right? Once you're elected, like, you have to govern and you have to be everybody's government and take all, not just cultures and all that, but, all circumstances, and the livelihoods and the, different people live in much, much differently than they do in big cities, down east and, in Quebec and Ontario or, in Vancouver or whatever. And, the lives of those people are much, much different. And so you have to take that perspective into account, I think, and govern accordingly. And I don't see it.
Well, I
see very
think they
little of
ought
that,
to, right?
You
But
pardon?
I say I think they ought to take those things into account, but that is just that it doesn't exist in the playbook anymore, unfortunately. That whole political game has changed, and it follows exactly along the line of what you were alluding to earlier about the influence and the manipulation and basically mentally leading people by the bloody nose. Well, I mean, we see it all around us now. What general society has turned into.
Even with
the stuff that you've been talking about and are passionate about is, that set of people or even it's getting to be the people that have some familiarity with that lifestyle or what it takes to do that kind of stuff, that special being out in the bush and with nature and that portion of the population is so small now. Everybody's here.
Yeah. And I that's really unfortunate. And, I think a lot of it is just poor leadership, because really, when you look at the history of what it means to be, Canadian in this country, and I think if people actually understood what the traditional bush culture of people living on the land in Canada is, and that it still exists, if they actually took the time to understand that, I think most of the people I talk to, and trappers actually spend a lot of time in classrooms with kids and all that. You know what? They get it immediately. Immediately, it resonates with them, and because they pick up on the perspective of being a trapper and the passion for doing that, the love of nature, but the love of that life, right? And and when they see how a trapper talks about an animal, with reverence, not just
right.
nothing, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That resonates, very well. And then they, when we talk about, the things that adversely affect wildlife, and that the reality is that nobody is void of responsibility for negative impacts on the habitat and the ecosystems that animals need to survive. The demand for resources by big cities, all of that stuff, the fuel that's needed to feed society at that level, all comes with a price. Every last bit of it, right?
Yep.
And so you can't plead ignorance to that, and you sure as hell can't, reasonably criticize people like me. Oh, well, you killed something, but we killed that thing, and we utilized every ounce of it, and we only used the fur and all that, whether we used it to make garments needed to survive in those circumstances, or whether we sold it to buy supplies, to sustain us and our family. that model is sustainable and it does nothing but benefit the landscape we're on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everything else other than that, not so much. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't need everyone to be out in the bush appreciating it. But I think that they need to find a way to respect the people that are there
Yeah. I
and
agree.
realize who they are and what that means, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I don't
That's
know. I kind of
that's a
once I
tough
get
one.
talking on that stuff, it's hard for me to stop because I just,
Yeah.
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 you know what I mean.
'Cause-
But when
'Cause
people
wasn't that,
see it,
Canada Goose a couple of years ago, they said we're not going to use coyote for the trim on the jackets anymore. Like even that kind
Yeah.
of thing is
Well,
there's a trickle down effect to that.
I feel that like I was a part of that actually, that program and all that, and we had it set up so we're establishing traceability, from right from the trappers and documenting how trappers trap humanely and sustainably, and the chain of custody all the way through in terms of a standard of traceability right up to where the fur gets used at the manufacturer's level, and that did nothing, I think, but add value to the product, but then I don't know, they
It would help to
pretty soon it's
legitimize
not
that product
Canada
at least.
Goose
Hey?
running things anymore. It's a hedge fund in China or something, and
Ah, of
they
course.
see that as a liability, right?
Mhm.
And so rather than defending it, because literally that's the culture and tradition that company was built on,
Right.
they go, well, we'll just appease the masses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
I
bit
think they lost their
spineless.
identity when they did that, because
Mhm.
now they're selling a bunch of crap just like everybody else, right?
Right.
With nothing real and tangible on there that separates them from everybody else, right? And
From
so,
Walmart.
Yes.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think maybe they lost track of who actually their market is, right?
Of
Mhm.
course
When
they
they
did.
go
Yeah.
out there, they want that nice fur-lined hood against their face when it's cold and windy and all that, and goose down in the parka, and good quality and good design, and I don't know.
Yeah.
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 That's unfortunate. I mean, that affected the coyote market for sure, and
Sure
it's
it
still
did.
affected by that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I think a lot of other fur is kind of seeing a resurgence, and it kind of started, in Eastern Europe and all of that, and now with I I think we put in Canada as like a global leader in how we manage our fur, and how we harvest humanely and sustainably. And when you look at the alternatives for garments, right? Well, what's the alternative? Like synthetic fiber,
Yeah.
And then, well, how do you think we get that?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. We're drilling
it's
for that.
and,
It's
but
it's a very primitive fur known as dinosaur.
well, yeah, and
Dinosaur fur.
but you can, now, like, they realize, yeah, like we can tie that fur product that we have to, a family living out on the land who actually
Mhm.
has the best interest of continuing that healthy
Right.
ecosystem, and what is it, how's it not better to an animal lives wild and free, we harvest it, give it a quick, humane death, so it doesn't die and then just, either rots in the bush or, it's torn to pieces and all, by
Yep.
other animals or, whatever it is that then, we take and we revere that animal, and that the spirit of that animal lives on and in the pelt and then the product that we supply to people who can appreciate it, right? And and then the bottom line is there's just really nothing warmer than fur. There just
Oh,
is
yeah.
not. you know, and
I think
I
think
have
the
this-
problem is
if you don't notice,
yeah,
I
you know,
have
you got
a beaver fur
you know,
hat
nice,
on.
nice hat
my-
on there and all that, and
My
you
head
know,
is
when it's 30 below
toasty.
and the wind's blowing, and yeah, you know,
Yep.
and it's fur lined too. I've worn this in the Northwest Territories when it's minus 40, and
Yeah.
my head is still warm.
oh, it's the
Yeah.
best.
Hmm.
Well, and if your head's warm, you're warm, right?
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know,
Head and feet.
people, you know, it's, you know, we may have to do a better job as trappers, you know, and you know, and the fur industry, you know, getting that across. But you know, uh, I ship an awful lot of stuff, you know, to not only across Canada but south of the border, and
Hmm.
you know, over to Europe and all that, and um, you know, with COVID and all that, like a lot of the ranch fur is gone, right?
Hmm.
They're done, toast, right?
Yeah.
And so it's back on wild fur production again,
Mhm.
and you know, um, certainly, um, Eastern and a lot of Western Europe now, like you know, they're getting cold weather over there again, and yeah, I think we're going to see kind of we're starting to see a resurgence and an increased demand,
Yeah,
and
which is
I
good.
think we're going to continue to see it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are we left with for fur buyers in Canada anymore? I know that the Winnipeg Fur Exchange is no longer. Isn't that right? What
Yeah,
other
North
options
American
are
Fur
there?
Auction, Winnipeg
Okay.
Fur, the fur auction, Seattle is gone. Western Fur Auction in Vancouver is gone.
Holy
Um,
cow!
that's it. So it's Fur Harvesters in North Bay, Ontario,
Okay.
and that's it. And then I think the only other big auction, Saga still has a fur auction in Scandinavia, but
Okay.
it's not what it was.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, basically there's nothing left in New York, or you know, that's pretty much it. So
Wow.
you know, the world comes to Canada now basically to buy certainly wild fur, and yeah,
So we're talking about fur auctions. For those that don't know, how do trappers actually sell their furs? Like, there's these auctions they send them to. Some they sell locally, or like, how do they get their product to market?
trappers now actually are pretty creative on how they do it. So there are trappers like me that will process their fur, get it tan or tan it themselves, make something and sell that. Uh, they can also just sell dressed pelts online without
Mhm.
any kind of regulatory process. Because once a raw fur is the thing that has all the regulations on it, you know, and that's how generally fur is, you know, it's skin stretched, prepared for dried, and it's ready to ship to market, right? You can sell to a local fur buyer. We got a bunch of them in Alberta. BC has a few. There's certainly across Canada local fur buyers that will pay cash money directly to trappers,
Mm.
you know, and they'll either, you know, have you know, a retail outlet, or they're on the road buying from trappers in different communities. You know, they'll advertise that and all that. And then there's the fur auction where basically you'll go to a receiving depot, uh, ship all your fur, it all gets tagged and everything like that. And then it heads to the fur auction by truck and is graded and put in lots. And yeah, you know, sometimes that's the best option. Sometimes not. You know, a lot of um, manufacturers of fur products will use fur buyers to buy directly on their behalf and try to, get a better deal that way than bidding against everybody else at the auction. But, if you're buying big volume, sometimes that's the only way to do it is at an auction sale. So trappers have that. Some will sell some fur earlier in mid-season to cover expenses to a fur buyer, and then ship the rest in March and May. So,
yeah. So when the market's down, like say for a certain fur-bearing animal, what effect does that have? Like, are trappers still trapping that animal?
Yep.
Less, or like they kind of see the need for management still, even though
Well,
the prices
the
are
tricky
down?
part is that, just because there's a good price for an animal doesn't mean there's lots of them, right?
Right.
And so the best, generally the best plan for trappers, what they should be doing and what successful trappers do is manage the population on their trap line according to numbers and habitat, right? And then let the chips fall where they may. You know what I mean? So, if you got lots of marten on your trap line, well, then you're lucky. You got a good marten line, and you trap lots of marten. The marten are a very good price right now. Same with fisher and lynx, look pretty good. And so you'll manage those animals, not over trap. Because you could, if you over trap one year, and you don't leave enough feeding stock, you're going to suffer the next. And then the price might go way up, and there you are sitting there. You trapped too much over a couple of years, and now you don't have what you need. And
Screwed yourself.
everything is relative, right? So if you manage one population and not the other, one can adversely affect the other as well, right? Just in terms of being a competitor, if you don't manage properly and you give one species an edge over another, trapping is certainly a component of management, but also, how much competition there is amongst similar species for the same resources is another, right? And so you have to be thoughtful about what you're doing out there. And
You're not the only predator out there.
Yes.
Oh,
really? Right? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that's the reality. We can be thoughtful about it. And generally, the way nature works is that predators will, hunt and kill until there's not enough to eat anymore, and then they crash. Right? Simple as that. And then it's a long cyclic return back to high numbers. What trapper has the ability to do is to take the boom and bust out of the animal population and make it more of on an even keel.
Yeah.
But now the weather is so crazy now. I mean that it's
I was gonna.
You
I
go
was
one
actually.
year and you hardly got any snow, and a lot of Alberta, especially, and in the territories, you're not getting very far unless things are frozen up and there's snow on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And then we got this year where it started snowing in December and it didn't stop.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because for those that are not in Alberta, we've had record levels of snow, at least in central Alberta. How does it affect trappers, and how does it affect the animals with lots of snow?
Some animals are adapted to it. Some animals it benefits, and some animals, most fur bearers, it tends to benefit. Game animals and prey animals, sometimes not so much. But it just depends. Like in Alberta, we got a great big pile of snow in December, and then it all melted in January, and basically, the bush is just one encased in ice, right? And now the flip side is that, now certain animals have a real advantage, especially if it's ice encrusted snow. where, you know, coyotes and wolves and, you know, the big cats, lynx and all of that, you know, if they're hunting ungulates, yeah, it's just they're just slaughtering, you know, the deer and all that. Deep snow, wolves have a harder time trying to pull down a moose or an elk in 3-4 feet of snow. Yeah, they have to really work at it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if the animal is smart and won't run, would rather fight, then yeah, a lot of times the wolves are going to take a licking, especially from a moose. If the moose is inexperienced and it decides to run, then the wolves are going to pull it down. You know, so
yeah, tired out.
Yeah, it depends. For trappers, yeah, having no snow and then 6 feet of snow, yeah, it's not great. If it comes, it can come continually. But if we're on our trails when it starts, you know, and then we keep our trails open and keep packing, keep opening, that's one thing. Going in there and trying to get around with 5, 6, 7 feet of snow in the bush, man, oh man.
Right.
It's really, really tough going.
Yeah. Your line might get a little shorter.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you talked about the like the conservation with trappers. Like, is there a feedback loop between trappers and the regulators, like the provincial government? Like, is there a feedback? It's like, hey, we're seeing really low populations of X fur bearer. Like, we need to look at this. Like, is there a good feedback between the two?
I think they kind of rely on trappers for the information. Really, I mean, you know, that it kind of, you know, policy changes, you know, but I think the government certainly realizes the value of having trappers on the landscape, because we collect a lot of data on their behalf. You know, we also manage, you know, a lot of the predators on their behalf. You know, and you know, there are government programs that, you know, help subsidize trappers to do that. So, you know, especially if, you know, for predators that really impact other game animals, you know, if the price is low, you know, they might subsidize trappers to kind of help them with the cost of really, you know, putting in a big effort, you know, managing, because, you know, it's okay. Trappers don't have to make a big pile of money, but, you know, it's tough to go out there and lose money day after day.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the price of fuel and equipment never seems to go down. It only goes up. So,
For sure.
yeah. So there are government programs like that. Trappers do a lot of work for research, you know, providing, you know, samples, logistics. Especially in Alberta, I think we work on more research programs having to do with wildlife than any other province, and trappers are really engaged in this province with that. You know, and a lot of trappers subsidize their fur trapping with, you know, doing what I do, wildlife management and that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
you know,
if somebody in Alberta wants to get into trapping, like become a trapper part-time, full-time, or as a hobby, what does that process look like?
First call us to the Alberta Trap. Well, first thing you should do is go to the Alberta Trappers Association website, albertatrappers.com. It's literally all there. The whole process, you know, how to be a trapper, you know, and if you don't want to go on a website, just phone, and the staff there will take you through it step by step. To get a trapping license in Alberta, whether it's a resident license or to be eligible to have a registered trap line, you know.
So what are the differences between a resident and having a trap line?
Resident trapper can either trap on your own land or any private land in which you have permission and the right of access, right? The seasons, they're fairly closely aligned, but there's different regulations, different rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a registered trapper, you're on Crown land, and you have the right to access that land, make improvements to facilitate the harvest of fur, and you have that exclusive right, unless you might take on partners as well, and we call it a partner license, but it's still the senior holder, the guy whose trap line that is, has the say over all of that. There's seasons, there's regulations, there's a lot of responsibilities there.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, but it's a different kind of license and it's a bigger commitment.
Okay, yeah.
Trapper, right? You're not just a fur harvester. Then you're actually a manager. You're expected to be a manager, a steward, and a fur harvester on there. And so you have to have a certain level of skill, a certain level of equipment, resources to be able to handle that responsibility, and that's what the expectation is. So everyone has to take the mandatory standard trapping course. That's a prerequisite to have any kind of trapping license in Alberta. And then after that, the association is very good on many components of that. We teach workshops and courses. First of all, we teach the standard trapping course. We deliver that on behalf of government.
Mm-hmm.
But we also teach workshops on the specifics of trapping, whether it's fur handling, trapping under the ice for beavers and muskrats, trap line management, things like that, different skills, using different kinds of traps. The other thing we do is that we have trapper kids camps. So kids who are interested but are too young to have a license can go to a trapper's kids camp with their parents if they want, and just start with the rudimentary basic bush skills and bushcraft that you'll need as a trapper.
Yeah.
Right on.
Start a fire, animal tracks, proper clothing, how to move through the bush safely, different skills, and in terms of navigation, all of that. And we got kids as young as 10 in that, and they just love it. It's tremendously popular. And after that, when a trapper gets their license, particularly trappers' licenses, we have trapper mentorship programs. So getting your license and taking the course is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Going out there and being effective as a trapper is another. But being able to go out with an experienced trapper, see how not only the skills, how to trap, but how to conduct yourself too, right? Every trapper out in the bush represents all trappers. So, you need to conduct yourself in a certain way, right? And what the expectation is. And it's also an introduction to the culture of trapping in the province. The Alberta Trappers Association has 25 local chapters spread all over Alberta.
Oh, wow.
And, these are all supported by the trapping community in Alberta. And, and basically they're a social group, a social entity for trappers, and it's not just about trappers, it's about trapping families, about, taking on conservation projects, working together, like that, and supporting each other. And all new trappers are, they get their first membership with the Alberta Trappers is free. They're encouraged to join a local chapter if there's one handy. If not, we'll find one for them. And then there are opportunities even, outside local chapters in the extended trapping community for trappers and their families to get involved in different things, and that's what we encourage. It's our history, our tradition, our commitment to this life. We're stakeholders on the landscape, and we take that very seriously. So, our recruitment and our retention of trappers in that trapping community is paramount for us. It's really important that we do that and do that job well. And we want to have well-trained, well-motivated, professionals out in the bush doing this work. So, we're committed to that. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great way to get kids outside in tune with nature.
Oh,
Definitely.
it's just the best.
No kidding. Yeah.
Just the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like, in a sense, like 4-H for bush critters.
Yeah.
both two-legged and four-legged.
Yeah. We run programs in Alberta. We also have the Alberta Center for Trapping and Bushcraft, and that facility is located on a trap line just north of DAP in north central Alberta, and that's committed to not only taking groups like 4-H and junior forest wardens and Cubs and Scouts, but also school groups. And a lot of the time, their very first experience out on the land is with one of our educators out there, seeing that from the perspective of a trapper and just someone whose life is committed to being on the land, right? So that perspective they get stays with them for their whole lives, right? Whether they move on into other things, whether it's trapping or hunting or fishing, and even if they don't get there, they have that perspective their whole lives because they've seen it and they've experienced it for themselves. And for us, that is the long game, right? Not everybody's going to do what we do or be what we are, but if you want, we need people to appreciate and respect who and what we are, and starting with kids, taking the time, and talking to them, telling them stories, letting them experience it for themselves, safely with someone there who really knows what they're talking about. It's invaluable, right? So I think that's probably
is passionate about it.
As trappers, is bring that, to everyday people in the society as general, and offering them that experience and therefore developing that perspective.
Yeah.
And
You're planting seeds
every
out
other
there, Bill.
conservation initiative, that's the beginning, right? Doesn't matter whether hunting or shooting or archery or whatever it is, I'll guarantee this, whatever it is you're doing, you're in the minority, right?
Yeah.
So this is something we preaching to the converted doesn't help us. And it's important that we do create those opportunities, but going out there, putting yourself out there, I think is something that trappers do more than anybody else, certainly in this province anyway. Yeah, because we'll go anywhere, we'll talk to anybody, and
heck, you're talking to us right now, so that's pretty good.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not gonna. I had a snappy comeback for that, but I'm gonna leave that one. but just this.
Yeah.
For me, for us, this is exactly the sort of thing we like to do. And out of this, maybe someone at some point will go on our website or pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And say, what's this really all about? I was kind of interested there, and if just one person does that, then this endeavor tonight for me was well worthwhile. So, that's the
Definitely.
way I look at it. And, and you seem
So I
like
got
nice fellas. So,
yeah.
it's certainly been entertaining.
I got a question for you about your problem wildlife business. Like, what are some of the examples of some of the calls you get, and how do you respond to them? Because, like, obviously there's fish and wildlife officers, but then you have a business. Like, what
you can't even
separates you
imagine
two?
the calls that we get.
Mm-hmm.
We get everything from, there's a dead rabbit in my backyard. Can you come?
That's the fireman's
And
job,
I've had
damn
that
it.
for, like, there's a mouse or so, like that, or like it just is what it is. And
Mm.
a lot of people, there's just no capacity there for a lot of people that live in an urban environment to just have any interaction whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Two, we deal with pest species like skunks and pigeons and raccoons and all of that. But there's other in my business. There's other people that do that,
Mm-hmm.
and generally, most of our work is done under contract. So we work for every level of government, whether it's federal, provincial, or municipal. And in municipal, we work for rural municipalities. We work for urban municipalities. And a lot of what we have to do in that case is infrastructure protection and public safety, right? In the agricultural sector, it's managing, animals like beavers that are damming up, creeks, cutting all the trees, eroding water courses, and they're just overpopulated, right? So we manage those populations. We target predators like coyotes, foxes, and wolves that are after, a threat to livestock. And then, urban coyotes and, things like that.
Yep.
And we do a lot of work for industry.
Yeah.
I get 80% of my crew right now is up on project sites in the Northeast region. And, it's all about security for workers, infrastructure protection,
Problem
like
bears.
yeah, and then in the summertime, it's bears, and more bears.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Other animals too. Wolves now are a bigger issue that way than they used to be. So are cougars. So are some other predators. So yeah.
I'm gonna need the location of those cougars.
Yeah.
So wolves, like most of us, when we think wolves, like we think northern Alberta or the Rockies. Like, are wolves moving to non-traditional territory?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the game is.
Mm-hmm.
Wolves have figured out two things. One thing they know for sure: it doesn't take a pack of wolves to kill a deer. An adult wolf is more than a match, and are able to survive. So that it means, so the extended pack tends to survive at higher rates, whereas, traditionally, 25 years ago, packs of wolves were basically a breeding pair. Only the breeding pair bred, kind of. That's not really that's scientifically correct, but that's the model that they work under. And then they kill larger ungulates as a pack, meaning, elk, moose, sheep,
Right.
bison, caribou, like that, but the reality is that, with the amount of resource activity and disturbance out there, we got as many ungulates and prey animals living on private land as we do on crown land, and sometimes more so. So you look up in the Peace Country, where's all the wildlife? It's on farms and ranches, right?
Yeah,
and that's where all the predators are. Yeah, and like worked on wolf packs killing within, well, less than 50K of Edmonton.
Oh, wow.
You know? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Like you're
Yeah.
talking northwest, northeast.
Whatever.
Wow, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
That's considering.
West, north, and east. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's definitely closer than I would have thought, but that's interesting.
Yeah,
Now,
there's bear, you know, and there's bears and cats right in the city limits
mhm.
continuously.
Wow.
There's black bears in
Yeah.
Edmonton city limits.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
cougars. Both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Calgary had an issue with cougars, but I didn't know Edmonton they're encroaching.
Well, they have issues in, I mean, Edmonton does as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you would never know they're there if they're behaving
Right.
themselves, right? And if they're not, you know they're there immediately.
Yeah,
So,
especially cougars because they're designed to be a very unseen animal. So
you know, which is what makes them dangerous. So
Mhm.
you know, generally with black bears and grizzlies, you there's some red flags and you get some warning if you know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And yeah, with cougars, there's no warning.
yeah.
So.
Now, since pretty much everyone in the outdoor space in Alberta we've been talking to about grizzlies, what is your perspective on the grizzly population and management?
I think the population is higher than people think it is, and I think the current management policy is insufficient.
Mm-hmm.
We have too many bears living in close contact with people, and if we don't have some kind of a harvest regime for them, they have no reason to be wary of people at all.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And it's just not a good formula.
No.
You know, and
No,
then,
it's pretty simple math.
yeah, and then, you know, so yeah, they're where they're way inside their traditional range. So, you know, if you're getting people attacked and killed around Cochrane, Alberta,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's so, because that's literally a semi-urban farming area,
Mhm.
right? There's people in, you know, urban people living all over that area, you know, and so they're not in the agricultural industry; they're just living there, right? And
Yeah.
you know, so then they're out walking around all over the place, and you know, I mean, you know, I sometimes government needs to do what is right, not popular. You
Yeah.
know, oh, we just,
Don't need to say that twice.
you know, I mean, we're
Yeah.
pretty, you know, Alberta's pretty good. You know, and
Mhm.
there is some mechanisms for dealing with those bears, but you know, and then you know the bears that are in, you know, the boreal areas and in the northern Rockies and all of that, you know, like you know, you get a lot of indigenous hunters and trappers there. If a bear's missing behaving, like it's getting shot.
Oh yeah.
That's it, right? You
Yeah.
know, and a lot of those problem bears as well are dealt with by indigenous hunters. Bears where there's hunting occurring, you know, the bears are wary. There's always circumstances where they're going to be a problem and could be, you know, sows and cubs and all that are one, but sows try to avoid people, and so if you're in grizzly country and you know it, you know, you need to take measures, right? You have to be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're showing up in areas where they're not expected by
Mhm.
people who have no clue. Or you're out deer hunting, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, you have on a ranch or a farm and you have a grizzly bear to deal with. So
Right.
it's and I just think if we had you know, you can have a restricted draw and all that, but you have to have some harvest, and
Yep.
I think the population is higher than we realize because grizzly bears are adaptable and they're in places now, particularly in the boreal forest, where you wouldn't expect, but they're there. And so, you need to be aware of that, and we need some harvest there because
Mhm.
Yep.
like
I
anything
wonder how
else.
long. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wonder how long it'll take in some of these areas where there are grizzly bears around, where they'll start being responsive to gunshots. Back when I used to
Well, I think they're responsive, but the response tends to be reactive, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think that um, you would think that, well, people are getting killed. Well, that would trigger something. So it has triggered, that, um, NGO hunter scenario where, hunters can go out and deal with a problem bear. But
Right.
I think also you need to have some pushback on the general population. So, when a bear gets killed, like, the other bears around there know it. And I think that's a good thing, because then they
Right.
associate that with people and,
Especially
they'll
grizzlies that are
make a
top of the
better,
food chain.
make a better effort to avoid people,
Yeah.
which is good rather than just, blustering around, like King in the Hill. That's all good, in wilderness areas, but
But you take that to the other end of that spectrum, though. Like back when I used to guide in the Yukon, it was known, and we actually had to watch out for it, that some of the grizzlies around would respond to a gunshot, or at least this is what popular belief was. Where we'd take hunters out, and the countryside, because it's so bloody quiet up there most times, here's this gunshot or two or three or whatever, and then Hunter and his guide goes and starts processing this animal, and suddenly there's a bloody grizzly bear there. That's happened more than a couple of times, I can tell you.
it happens quite often, like even in Alberta, in the eastern slopes, in the north, kind of the north central West Boreal around, say, Whitecourt, Fox Creek, Valley View up to Grand Prairie, in those areas. You put an animal down, like there's no,
It gets some attention.
we'll gut it out and chop it open and get it in the morning. Yeah, you might not like what you get when you show up there. You have to get your animal out of there, or because bears definitely know in the fall, right up to the end of November, that a gunshot means there's going to be at minimum a gut pile and maybe something else, right?
Yeah. And maybe it's not such a big deal, up in the Yukon, but in these more populated areas, and especially when there's hunters that are just not aware of this behavior. It has high potential to be a big bloody problem.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. Yeah, I think we're gonna see more of that.
I think so.
There's more bears and all that, and we're we've black and grizzly, and the main predator on black bears, other than other black bears or grizzlies, is wolves.
Right.
And we've reduced wolf numbers substantially in a lot of areas, right? Particularly in caribou ranges or areas adjacent to them. And the amount of fires that we're getting out in the bush, means that those large predators are getting pushed into areas where the concentration and the numbers is higher than it might normally be.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
there's the competition amongst those predators is going to have them at an elevated, aggressive, or
hmm
you know, a state of mind that is, maybe the more irritable, more aggressive,
Competitive.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
and um, yeah, and then when you're hunting in that area and that pressure is there, I
hmm
just think that we're going to see more conflict with hunters in areas where we might not expect it, and so
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's tricky.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think a little more thought needs to be put into it, and then
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think you can
typically,
For sure.
use social media to gauge people's reaction to
no.
that, because very few
Yeah,
people
it's
can
biased.
create an awful lot of fuss over something, and
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Well,
We have
when
a
does change usually happen now? It's when something gets out of hand and something bad happens. That's what it's
Yeah,
going to take, I think. Yeah.
I find it scary. Like, you look at social media, and somebody gets killed by a bear or something, and the more people are saying, "Oh yeah, poor bear," or "I hope they don't shoot the bear," or something. Doesn't say much for the survival of our own species, when it's okay for another species to
Make
kill
natural
us, and
selection great
we want to
again.
preserve. I don't really
Mm.
get that, but you know
We got a question from Alberta Rob here. Have you ever trapped bobcats in Alberta?
have I?
Yes.
No, I have
Mhm.
not. I know a lot of trappers that have, but I've never. The only the only ecosystem that I've done a lot of trapping in where there were bobcats is the city of Calgary,
Oh,
and
Okay.
wow.
that's probably. I'm guessing that's one of the highest bobcat populations in the province, is in the city of Calgary, but we're not allowed to trap them there. We can haze them out of
Mm.
people's backyards and stuff, but we can't trap them. So yeah,
Interesting.
but Alberta has a good and growing bobcat population along the southern rivers, and the
hmm
the Old Man, South Saskatchewan, the Milk River.
Yeah.
Even the Bow River have good bobcat numbers, and then in the eastern slopes and the Porcupine Hills and west of Calgary in there's a good number of bobcats in there. Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
they're great.
Rob's out
Great animals.
southwest of Calgary.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
One of my sons traps in that area, and yeah,
Okay.
he loves cat. Yeah.
Well, we're just about coming up on 2 hours here, so we should probably wrap this up. It's been a really good
Good
conversation with Bill
conversation.
here.
Sure.
Mike, do you have any questions?
I just got a quick one. What are your thoughts on the Alberta government banning boar hunting on Crown land? Because it seems to be one of those things where either there's so many boars we don't know what to do with them, and then I know people that are like, I've been living in Alberta for 30 years and I've never seen one once. So where are you standing on the wild boar issue?
Well, they're around, and actually, because they're almost completely nocturnal. You'll see them around if you're in areas where there's lots of them. If you know what you're doing, and you know about wild boars, shooting can be effective. The problem is, though, is that if people hunt them, they're going to get one or two, and then the mature sows and all that go into uh, black op mode, and you just never see them. It makes them more any scent of human, anything like that, they avoid it, and just makes them harder to deal with. That's what the reasoning is that they'll get one or two, but that's all they'll get. And there's like 30 more in that sounder. And now they're hypersensitive on people. So it makes it not effective anymore. And it just makes it harder to trap them, which is, the best way to deal with them. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that it made that big a difference, because I remember when they had the bounty and you got, I forget, was it 5 or 10 or $20 for the ear of a wild boar? And I think the total count after a couple of years of that was like 0.
Well,
So,
yeah.
I mean, what are we?
We
Didn't seem to
we
be
just
like
gotta
a
open
whole
up
lot were
night
getting
hunting.
shot. So maybe it wasn't that big a problem.
Mhm.
If they were, if it was my farm and they were rooting everything all up, I'd probably get peed off and want to track them into crown land. You can still shoot them on private land, right? It's crown
Yeah,
land where they don't want to,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Yeah. I guess
like
we'll
hearing
see how well
everybody's take
that
on it.
works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, wild birds are a problem. Pretty much every municipal contract that we sign, we have to show that we have the capability to hunt wild boars and deal with them. So
Okay, interesting.
that's in every contract now. So,
It's more and
obviously,
more important.
yeah.
Well, we'll wrap it up here. We'll wrap it up with this comment. If he doesn't read this, let Bill know that I'm thankful he came on the show to talk. Dude is extremely interesting and knowledgeable. It's been a terrific show, boys. So, and I think our guests agree.
Thanks for that, whoever said that.
That's one of our
Regulars.
regular listeners, Mr. Yukikazi. And I
Down
want to thank
south
you
of the
again,
border.
Bill, for coming on and talking trapping. It's been very interesting.
No problem.
And I'm sure we've all taken away a little bit of knowledge from this. And
Great.
Again, I'll post it, the link again. But for those in Alberta, you can find out more at albertatrappers.com, which will take you to the Alberta Trappers Association website and learn about the courses. And if you want to further
Every
your
aspect of
pursuit.
trapping is on there, and it is the portal
Mhm.
for trapping. Whether you phone or go online or whatever you do, the website's really interesting. There's a lot of information in there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
to our listeners, be sure to check out the show at facebook.com/BS podcast and leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. If you like the content, please leave a like on the page and share. And also you can email us with any questions you might have at info@bspodcast.ca or banyak@bspodcast.ca. A massive thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we wouldn't have a show in the first place. We're talking about Miles, Carrie, and Cappy with call sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Nisa at March Scopes Canada, Vanya and Carly with Apex Optics, Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing, and J.R. Cox with a Sterling Arms International. Thank you all an immeasurable amount, and thanks again to Bill for coming on and talking to us.
Thanks, fellas. It was awesome. Call me
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bet.
Mhm.
Right on.
We
Thanks,
may have
everybody.
to have you.
Thank you for listening to the Ballistically Speaking podcast. And remember, live, laugh, and reload.
And